You have a subject where you have a grade in mind that you're not currently hitting. Maybe you're working at a C, but you really want an A star. You're verging on a 6, but you want to be hitting those 9s. It is possible to get yourself up there in 3 days. It is hard. You're going to have to put in a lot of work, but it is possible. And right now I'm going to take you through the 3-day, 72-hour strategy that is going to fundamentally improve your grades. We are going to be blowing up your academic abilities in 3 days. I've got a schedule for each of those 3 days. Let's go through them. We're going to start with day 1. Day 1, we are getting up and we are committing to a digital detox, even if just for these 3 days. What I want you to do is I want you to grayscale your phone so that you don't have the dopamine hit of colours on TikTok all of the time. I'm not saying you have to delete your social media. I know that is not sustainable, and a lot of people will just hear that and go, this is not a tip for me. That's so fine. I never deleted my social media fully. I just put time limits on them. I went on screen time in settings and put on a time limit, and that helped immensely. That's what you're going to do to start with. Then we're going to have a Cambridge morning. Why am I calling it a Cambridge morning? Because I'm naming it after the crazy Cambridge rowers who'll be up at 5:30 in the morning. I'm not saying get up at 5:30 in the morning. What I am saying is get up at a time that is reasonable for you, maybe slightly earlier than normal, just to give yourself that sort of boost of feeling like you're doing something different. Within the first half an hour, get some fresh air. Even if that is making a cup of tea and sitting in your garden for 2 minutes. Whatever it is, get some fresh air. I'd like to go for a 10-15 minute walk. That's all you need. Something like that. Have a good breakfast, generally protein and fats heavy, because that is what your brain really needs to work. And also make sure that you kind of do those small bonus reward tasks. Things as simple as making your bed that will give you that little bit of motivation, having ticked off things in your mental to-do list that will make it easier for you to then keep working, keep hitting things, if you catch my drift. Then we're going to think about your study space. If your desk is a mess at the moment, spend 20 minutes to just clear it up. It is going to make a world of difference. It is going to make you feel more focused, it's going to make you feel more put together, and that is going to translate into better and more effective work. With your study space, I would say keep it nice and clear, keep everything that you need relatively close. If you don't like studying at home, get to a library, get to a cafe, get somewhere where you can study, because then what we're going to do is we're going to do 3 90-minute active recall sessions. What this is going to look like is you are essentially going to split your subject into 3 parts. If that means you're going to group a couple of different topics together, so fine. With something like physics, that might mean that you're grouping electricity with particles, which feels very weird, but it's so fine. You're just going to do it like that. And sometimes you might even figure out interesting links, because actually, I came up with electricity and particles off the top of my head, but they actually have quite a lot of very fundamental links. So, you might come up with those sorts of things as well. What these active recall sessions are going to look like: 30 minutes of blurting everything that you know. You're not going to look at a single resource before you do this. You're not going to look at a textbook. You're not going to get out your notes. You're just going to blurt everything you can remember about the topics. Then we're going to our textbook, or we're going to our video, or we're going to our class notes. We're going to something, and we're going to supplement everything we've blurted. This is a process you should be familiar with now. You should be going through everything that you wrote down. You should be comparing it with what's in your textbook. Did you miss anything out? Did you get anything incorrect? Those things, add in a different colour pen so they really stick in your mind. Generally, I would blurt in black, and I would add things in and correct things in blue, because your brain remembers blue ink a lot better than it remembers black. So that's quite a good tip as well. That should be on a new line. I don't know why I wrote it there. But then the final half an hour is you're going to be teaching. You're going to be thinking through and vocalising. Importantly, vocalising. This is where it's difficult to be in a library, and why I would always say, if you can find somewhere at home or somewhere where you can freely speak, do it there, because vocalising really enhances memory. You want to talk through everything that you've just learned about the certain topic, about the concept that you were looking at, all of those things you forgot, all of those things that you got incorrect. Talk it through and try and summarise everything. And in your head, if you're finding it hard to talk for 30 minutes, fair enough, but you want to be questioning yourself. So you say something like, I don't know, the direction that conventional current flows in a circuit. Okay, why is that the case? And then question that even further. Why? Keep asking yourself why. Pretend there's a really annoying child, or get an annoying child to keep asking you why. And then in the evening, we're going to be reflecting and planning. What topics in that subject were you not very good at? What topics did you find you forgot the most, or you got the most incorrect? They are priority for your next couple of days. And we're going to be planning out, basically saying, okay, what do you think you need to focus on the most, having just gone through basically all of the content in your subject. Let's move on to day 2. Don't say I didn't warn you. Day 2 is going to be intense, but day 2 is going to give you results. The first thing I'll say that you should do is move, because you're going to be sat down a lot today. In the morning, try and get in a bit of exercise. Go for a run, go for a walk, do some Pilates, do a bit of stretching, do whatever works for you, but do something where you are moving, being active, getting the blood flowing. That's going to start your day off on a great foot, and it's also going to make you a lot less restless and a lot easier for you to focus for the rest of the day. Because we're going to be starting off strong, and we're going to do 3 hours of SQ4R. That is not a solid 3 hours. You can break it up however you want. You can interleave it throughout the day, but you want to be doing 3 hours of SQ4R. And you want to be focusing this SQ4R on those subjects those topics that yesterday you said were priority. The things that you forgot the most of when you were trying to blurt, or the things that you got the most incorrect. And you're going to be using SQ4R as you are reading. So that is the survey question, read, recite, reflect, review, or something like that. I do have a video on SQ4R, but you're going to be using that for 3 hours because that is a really active form of reading, and it's basically for those areas where you don't have the content nailed. Because a lot of the time, if you need to jump many grades, it's because you have gaps in content. If you're hovering at a B, an A, and you want to get to an A star, okay, you might not have gaps in content. I would still recommend this as a great thing to do for those priority areas, but it's not as pressing as if you're hovering on grades below that. Then we're going to do 50-10 past paper questions. I would normally do this for 2 to 3 hours, and I would recommend a minimum of 2 hours on a day like this when you're really trying to boost your grades. And what this is 50 minutes of past paper, 50 minutes of past paper questions, and followed by 10 minutes of a break, but a break that is completely away from everything. Not on your phone. Not, finishing off quickly your questions. Not still looking at the mark scheme. Completely detached from studying, that 10 minutes should be. And you're going to do that, as I say, 2 or 3 times, past paper questions, focusing in on those topics that you had done the SQ4R for. Then we're going to get you to do a past paper. You might be thinking, but I haven't really reviewed those other topic areas, the ones that I was pretty good at the day before. You were pretty good at them the day before. You know a lot more than you're letting in on. So having a past paper is really going to help you with that. And from that past paper, you're going to begin making a cheat sheet. This cheat sheet is going to cover the things that you got incorrect or didn't really understand from the past paper. Got that? Okay, time to move on to day 3. Day 3 is where you're going to see everything come together. We're going to start off with 3 more rounds of 50 minutes of past paper questions and 10 minutes of a complete and utter rest. But these are going to be focused on the topic areas that you didn't focus on the previous day. So things that perhaps weren't as much of a priority initially, but you might have come up with other priority areas, for example, and you'll be including them in this. But basically by the end of doing 2 days of 50-10 past paper questions, you should have covered basically every topic area or every broad topic area, not necessarily all the, minute details, but you should have basically covered everything. And as you're doing that, you're going to be adding to your cheat sheet. When you get things wrong, when you don't really understand something, add to the cheat sheet. What did you get wrong? What didn't you understand? What can you learn from that? How can you use that to help you in the future? You're going to also do 2 hours of the whiteboard method on this day. Now, I would suggest doing this after you've done all of your past paper questions, simply because the way that you're going to do this is it's not necessarily 2 hours completely focused all the time. I would normally do 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off, because while I normally don't do that if I'm doing larger tasks, for the whiteboard method it makes sense to me. And essentially what this constitutes is, if you don't have a whiteboard, you can just do it on pieces of paper, there's no difference. But I find a whiteboard better because you can rub things off, it's kind of nicer. But you are basically going to be, from memory, writing down the topic. You're basically going to be writing the specification. That sounds a little bit weird. How are you actually achieving that? Well, essentially, what you should do is you should know the titles of the topics. So, for example, for something like physics, that is particles, that is electricity. You're going to write down the titles one by one if you're doing it on a whiteboard, or individually on separate pieces of paper if you're doing it on paper. And you are going to spend between 20 and 30 minutes on each of these topic areas, basically going through what are all of the key words that relate to this area, what are all of the key equations, all of the key diagrams, key concepts. You're not trying to fill in all of the little details. You're trying to fill in all of the overview things that you genuinely need to know for each of those topic areas, and you're going to spend 2 hours doing that. That is going to be a bit of a slog. But after you've spent 2 days, the previous 2 days, really concentrating in on all these different areas of the subject, you'll find that you will actually be able to do this with reasonable accuracy. We're going to do another past paper. Oh my god, 2 past papers in 2 days? Yes. The reason being, I want you to see the way that this works. Because I can almost guarantee that in this past paper you're going to get a better grade, better percentage than you did in the previous past paper. Why? Because you will have just gone through the entire subject. you will know all of the key ideas. They will be fresh in your mind. And this past paper I probably do about 4 p.m. That is very late for me to do a past paper, but given everything else that day, it's quite worth it. And finally, you're going to be condensing your cheat sheet. From everything that you've done across the 3 days, you're going to be making a single page master cheat sheet. The goal of this cheat sheet is for you to look over at it the moment before you walk into an exam. You're going to take it with you and you're basically going to leave it with your bag outside the exam room and review it literally 5 minutes before you then go in and open the paper. So I don't want you to put too much into this because a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that they're going to suddenly turn stupid and forget everything in the 20 minutes it takes for them to like walk from home to the school. And I did that all the time. I would think, oh, I've got to add in this extra definition just in case I forget. You're not going to forget. Honestly, you're not going to forget. Put the most important things on this cheat sheet and it is going to be the final thing you see before you go in and absolutely smash your exam because you will have just glowed up your grades in only 72 hours. I really hope this helps. Any questions, let me know. If this helped and you enjoy it, do subscribe to my channel and I'll see you in the next video.